The Emirates as Arsenal try and capitalise on drop points by Liverpool in the title race when they host Tottenham. Mikel Arteta has been involved in plenty of North London derbies as both a player and manager, but revealed his former teammate Jack Wilshere played a key role in shaping his attitude towards this fixture.
I remember having a few conversations with Jack about it, because Jack as well was very passionate, that we all know about the rivalry, and he made it very public as well a few times, so that was all the time very, very viral. So that probably is something that is stuck in my head from a player's perspective. Probably the nicest game of the season to watch and to play, certainly, because of the atmosphere, because what it means to our people, what it means to us. Everybody is involved in the game, so this is something that is in our hands. For example, it's and let's create the best atmosphere that we have played at the Emirates. That's an objective. That's something that we control. Players, staff, and all the supporters that turn up tomorrow. So this is something that we can do. So let's do it.
So Arteta giving Arsenal supporters a rallying cry ahead of tonight's game. They go into the match having already beaten Spurs this season. They can be buoyed by Tottenham's poor record at the Emirates too. They are 13 games without a win there in the league.
It's really the last couple of games where people have sort of all of a sudden dropped off them, and that's the nature of football these days. You know, it's like a week, 10 days, all of a sudden, you know, somebody who, you know, people were saying was flying, all of a sudden is struggling. I don't buy into that. I still think they're one of the top teams in the country. They've got some fantastic footballers. They're well organised. They work hard for each other, and it's going to take a massive effort for us to knock them over.
Well, one player who knows what it's like to play for both sides in the North London derby is Emmanuel Adebayor. But who does he think needs a victory more?
I think Tottenham, if they finish in the top four, it will be a record. It will be great for them. But Arsenal want to win the league. So I think if you ask me who need to win this game more, it have to be Arsenal, because Tottenham already behind by far compared to the first with Liverpool. Arsenal are 6 points behind, I think, with one game for Tottenham in hand. So which means they don't have a choice, they have to win. So the team that need to win more tomorrow is Arsenal. Now, without a striker, let's watch.
Both managers have spoke about the enormity of this game. Peter, who does this fixture tend to favour, though?
Well, Arsenal, and at the Emirates, definitely Arsenal. Tottenham have won just one out of their last 31 trips to Arsenal away in the league. It's an incredible stat and just shows the enormity of the task for Ange Postecoglou's side against Arsenal this evening. We can see it here. Arsenal have won 6 of their last 8 Premier League games against Spurs as well. So whether it's home or away, Arsenal have had the upper hand. It was interesting actually, after the Man United defeat for Arsenal at the weekend, I was there in the press conference, and Arteta said, this is the best game for us to come into next. And when you look at that record, you think, yeah, it probably is. But actually, you think, well, you know, last week we saw Arsenal lose 2-0 to Newcastle and really have a big mountain to climb in that semi-final of that Carabao Cup. They've gone out of the FA Cup against Man United. And you just wonder if Tottenham could pull something out of the bag, and a Tottenham team obviously hugely motivated to get a result against their big rivals, it could really give Arsenal some problems in the Premier League. They're 7 points behind Liverpool as it stands at the moment. And they've got Villa as well at the Emirates at the weekend, so another tricky game coming up. So it's a real crunch moment for Arsenal, but I guess if they look at these historical records, they should feel confident going into this game.
OK. They've met already this season. What do you think the two managers learnt from that game in September?
Well, it was an interesting one because it was obviously decided by that Gabriel header from a Saka corner, another set-piece goal for Arsenal. But it was a game that was kind of almost defined by the absences in it. You know, Odegaard was out injured at that time. Rice was suspended on the back of that red card, I believe, against Brighton. So it didn't feel like either side were at full strength, and it'll be the same tonight. You know, Arsenal at least have 5 players out, huge players: Saka, Wanyeri, Jesus, all gone from their forward line. And then Spurs' injuries, they've got 8 players definitely out, and most of those are key defenders or key members of the defence in Udogie, Vicario obviously, Romero, Van der Ven, Ben Davies as well. So it would be that makeshift back four once again, which I did think stepped up magnificently in that Carabao Cup game against Liverpool. Both sides went to extra time at the weekend as well, which could be interesting. Of course, they went to extra time and Spurs got a result against Tamworth, which you would expect. Arsenal went to extra time and penalties against Man United, then have the emotional turmoil of losing that game in that fashion. So it's an incredibly difficult one to call. I do agree with Emmanuel Adebayor, though, that Arsenal need this far more. You know, if they win tonight, cut that gap to 4 points from Liverpool. Liverpool slightly going through a bit of a sticky patch, which was going to happen at some stage of the season. Mo Salah not looking particularly strong against Nottingham Forest for the first time in weeks. Gakpo struggled a little bit. Diaz too as well. So it's maybe a time to put a little bit of pressure on Liverpool. This is quite an interesting stat as well. So Gabriel's winner in the previous meeting was Arsenal's 24th set-piece goal in the Premier League since the start of last season, the most of any side. And it'll be a new goalkeeper in Kinski, making his Premier League debut tonight. He's done really well in the Carabao Cup in his debut as well. But it's a makeshift backline, and that is going to be the key talking point ahead of the game. Can they contain Arsenal's threat from set pieces? Because if you do that, then Arsenal have proven over the last month or so that they maybe don't create enough from open play.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that, Dougie, obviously Saka out, and watching them at the weekend against United, what was really noticeable, the drop-off in the quality of that delivery. So Rice was on the bench, so you had Odegaard taking them, Martinelli from the other side. It just wasn't the same delivery, and obviously eventually Gabriel did get his goal later on in the game. But they definitely missed Saka in lots of ways, and one of them is with that delivery from corners.
Yeah, what I've heard from both of you is injuries to both sides. So what we thought we'd do to give us an idea of who has the strongest side, we'll get you to do a combined 11 of the players that are available. Pete, let's start with you.
Players available, players fit and in form as well, because I think that's going to be quite important in terms of how much criticism I get as we move through this team. Dougie's already given me quite a lot. Let's start in goal. I think he's quite solid, David Raya. Kinski has done well in his first two games. Fourth goalkeeper Tottenham have used so far this season, but yeah, definitely Raya, I think, would be the pick of the goalkeepers between the team sides. I've gone for Timber ahead of Porro. Maybe there's a little bit of a coin toss between those two. They've both had good seasons. Timber, I think, has been pretty solid recently. Saliba and Gabriel, obviously, ahead of Gray and Dragusin, who've really had their work cut out, haven't they? Playing every game and battling as well as they can among lots of injuries in that area of the pitch for Tottenham. I think Gray's really stood up well as a teen who's playing out of position at the moment. If we go to left back, Lewis Skelly. I really like him at just 18 years old, coming into midfield for Arsenal, the way he's stepped up, the way he's keeping out much more experienced left backs out of this team. I think that's really a credit to him. Obviously, Doggy would normally be competing for that spot, but he's not fit at the moment. And Spence has done well, but I think just Lewis Skelly, just for me, at the moment. And this is where it gets a little bit controversial. Let's start with Bissouma, has been very good. Rice has been very good. And I've gone for Sarr. Now, I was looking for an attacking midfielder, and normally you would go with Martin Odegaard, who's not had a Premier League goal involvement, Doogie, since November.
It's been a while.
We're now in January, right? And James Maddison, who's been on the bench for the last 3 Premier League games for Tottenham. So you look at the two main creators for these sides and then just not delivering at the moment. Odegaard getting a lot of stick at the Emirates from the fans around the press box on Sunday. That's probably got into my head, influenced me a little bit. I think Sarr does well whenever he plays in the team, but I was really struggling for a third option when those two were ruled out, and maybe a little bit light on creativity. And then we talk about Arsenal's need for a striker, need for a forward in this January window. I've gone for a clean sweep across the top. Obviously, Saka's missing for Arsenal. Havertz, horrible performance from him at the weekend. So many bad misses. It would be hard to put him in the team ahead of Slanky, who's done well recently. And then Son, I mean, he's not firing on all cylinders either, but I think Martinelli and Trossard have been quite disappointing for Arsenal so far this season.
Oh, no, God. Okay, Doogie, have you got him in?
Well, I think Pete seems like more of the Arteta school of thought, very solid defensively. I'm maybe the more entertaining side. Pedro Porro at right back, I put Timber at left back. Look, Lewis Skelly, I agree with you, he's done really, really well, but in experience, I'm imagining that this is to play in a game of this calibre as well. I want Timber's experience there. I think Pedro Porro is really underrated. I don't think he's been quite as solid defensively as in previous years, but going forward this year, only Son has provided more assists in this Spurs side. I think if Trent Alexander-Arnold was to leave Liverpool and they wanted a Premier League ready option, I think Pedro Porro at Liverpool would be a really nice addition there as well. Raya picks himself over Kinski. Saliba and Gabriel, I think it's kind of gone unnoticed how many more mistakes they're making than usual this season. It feels like one a game from sort of one of them is coming compared to the previous few years, whether that's about Arsenal or not. penning their opposition back with the sort of lack of possession they've had and the sort of structural changes they've had in midfield and attack, I'm not sure, but they haven't been at their absolute best. In midfield, I'd love to see this midfield operate. I think Maddison, Odegaard either side of Rice is absolutely dreamy. Look, I agree with you that Sarr adds a lot of legs in there. Basuma, I feel like, has a real clanger in him. I think Rice hasn't been at his absolute best this year, but is still the superior player to Basuma. And then Maddison's goal contributions, despite the fact he's played more of a bench role, I think are really impressive. Kulusevski's the form player that is available in either side right now. He's had huge performances in big games. He was awesome at Old Trafford. They've nicknamed the Etihad the Decky Had, which is after his nickname Decky, because he is so comfortable in that. He'll be absolutely massive if Spurs are going to get anything at the Emirates tonight. I think Solanke, as you say, picks himself. I think he's had a really underrated season. He was the Premier League's most expensive signing this summer. Huge risk in many ways, arriving from Bournemouth to Spurs with their ambitions, and despite all the turmoil at the back, Solanke's goal return and assist numbers are really solid. I think Son's creative numbers this year are really impressive. Hasn't probably been at his sharpest. I think it's the first time in 6 years that he's underperformed his XG, but he has to be picked over Martinelli on Trossard and Trossard on current form. So I think my side are much more of the entertainers, let's say.
But both of you, clean sweep for Spurs in that front three, which is telling, isn't it?
Well, meanwhile, after Gabriel Jesus' ACL injury that we revealed yesterday, Arsenal's priority this month is a new striker.
Yeah, we understand they're close to a deal to sign Real Sociedad's Martin Zubimendi in the summer. Zubimendi has a release clause that Sociedad believed to be £51 million, and although Arsenal wanted him in this window, a compromise has been struck for the move to go through in the summer. Liverpool had agreed a deal for Zubimendi in the summer, only for the player to change his mind.
He's been the one Arteta has wanted, and they worked on it while they were in the process of signing Mikel Merino from Real Sociedad last summer, and they've made some real progress. They'll hope to get it over the line, and that will bring some real questions for what's going to happen in terms of the future of Thomas Partey and Jorginho. I don't think final decisions have been made yet where Merino and Declan Rice going to play in the 6 or the 8 role, but he's a top player. We've seen that with Spain and Sociedad. There's a €60 million release clause. As I understand it, Arsenal might look to pay a little bit more than that, actually, to then gain a better payment plan, stagger those instalments, and be able to then do other activity next summer.
Yeah, Zubimendi, a central midfielder. Maybe not the striker that Arsenal fans are hoping for, but there is a theme to Arsenal's transfer targets. Basque-born Mikel Arteta seems to like players who played for his old club, Real Sociedad. This is their team that played Villarreal in the 2019-20 season. As you can see, Arsenal captain Martin Odegaard is there. Summer signing Mikel Merino in there as well. Also Zubimendi. Oh yeah, look who else started the game. Newcastle striker Alexander Isak. They've got about as much chance of signing him as I can't think of anything.
As you having a perfect hour. Right, Zubimendi's arrival is significant with Jorginho and Thomas Partey both out of contract at the end of the season. However, Sky in Italy are reporting that Brazilian side Flamengo are interested in Jorginho and could sign him this month or in the summer.